The courthouse was quiet, almost reverent, as the late afternoon sun filtered through high windows, casting golden stripes across the wooden benches. Leah Monroe stood at the front, a soft smile curving her lips, her dark curls pinned loosely around her face, dressed in a simple white dress that fluttered just above her ankles. She looked like something out of a quiet dream. Beside her, Noah Carter stood tall and confident in a navy blue suit, his hand gripping hers with practiced ease. His eyes sparkled not with tenderness, but something harder to place. Across from them, the officiant spoke gently, while Leah's older sister Ava stood between them and signed every word with fluid grace. Leah's hands moved delicately in response, her fingers dancing with emotion. Her I do was silent, but thunderous in meaning. Her eyes shimmered with tears, not of doubt, but of joy. In that moment, she believed in everything, in love, in hope, in second chances. Noah kissed her with a gentle urgency, just enough to draw a soft sigh from the small group of witnesses. To Leah, it felt real, like the beginning of something sacred, but the illusion shattered not long after. Later that night, in a dimly lit bar filled with the din of laughter and clinking glasses, Noah leaned back in a leather booth, nursing a whiskey and grinning like a man who had just won a bet. His friends, Mason and Tyler, laughed beside him, slightly drunk, slightly in disbelief. "No way you pulled that off," Mason said, eyebrows raised. Tyler leaned in, smirking. "You actually married her." Noah lifted his glass with a crooked smile. "Told you I could get her to say yes in under 30 days. Pay up, boys." He tapped the rim of his glass. Deaf, lonely, and looking for love, she never stood a chance. They laughed, but his words lingered like poison. What Leah thought was the start of forever was, to Noah, nothing more than a cruel gamer challenge to be conquered. And as their glasses clinked in celebration, somewhere across town, Leah sat on the edge of their new bed, carefully framing one of her sketchiza, simple charcoal drawing of Noah's smile. Her fingers brushed the paper softly, lovingly, unaware that the man she had just married wasn't the partner she thought he was, but a stranger wearing a mask. Noah Carter had always been the kind of man who walked into a room and made it spring. Wealthy, handsome, sharp, but beneath the charm was something colder, emptier. Raised in luxury, he learned early that manipulation could open doors faster than honesty. But when his father finally grew tired of his reckless spending and entitled attitude, cutting him off financially, Noah began to spiral. Stripped of the endless safety nets he'd always counted on, he found himself desperate to prove he could still win, still control, still matter. It was during one of these late-night pity parties that Jay, his most reckless friend, tossed out the bet. "I dare you," he said, half laughing over shots. "Get that quiet art girl at the market to marry you in 30 days. Brian, the quieter one, tried to object, but Noah, bitter and unmoored, smirked. "You're on." What started as a joke became his mission. He didn't know Leah Monroe, not really. He'd seen her a few times at the local art market always, sitting quietly beside her easel, signing with customers, her eyes thoughtful, far away. She was beautiful in a way that felt untouchable, with warm skin, expressive hands, and a presence that seemed to hum with something deep and gentle. But to Noah, she was also a puzzle to crack, a game to win, a way to take back control in a world that had finally told him no. Leah had been deaf since the age of 9, the result of a sudden illness that left her world hushed but not hollow. She adapted, learned to sign with fluid grace, and found beauty in silence. Her art became her voice, vibrant, emotional paintings filled with motion and heart. She lived modestly with her older sister Erica, a hard-working nurse who had raised her after their parents died in a car accident. Life had never been easy, but Leah carried herself with quiet strength, finding joy in small routines: morning tea, the scratch of charcoal on canvas, the rhythm of hands moving in conversation. She was used to being overlooked, spoken over, pitied but not seen. So when Noah began appearing at her art stand each day, asking thoughtful questions through typed notes, learning to sign simple phrases, complimenting her work with soft eyes and genuine interest, she was taken aback. No one had ever paid her that kind of attention before. He was charming, attentive, patient. He made her laugh. He made her feel beautiful. She told Erica one night, cheeks flushed, "He makes me feel seen without words." Erica was immediately suspicious as Leah beamed over dinner, showing off a sketch Noah had drawn of her while she worked. Crude, but sweet. Erica's gut twisted. She didn't trust fast love, especially not from someone like Noah Carter, who she remembered from high school as smug and smugger. People like him don't change overnight, she warned. But Leah, always the gentler one, brushed it off. Maybe he just needed someone to believe in him, she signed, hopeful. She was glowing in a way Erica hadn't seen in years, and for a moment, even her big sister instincts couldn't argue with that light. But behind Noah's tender notes and long walks was a lie. Each gesture was calculated, each moment curated. To draw her in, Jay texted him daily, mocking updates. Brian, increasingly uneasy, tried to pull Noah aside more than once. "This is too far," he said. "She's a real person, man." But Noah brushed him off. "It's just a bet," he replied. But even he knew that somewhere along the way, the lines had started to blur. He wasn't sure if he was in control anymore, if he was just pretending to be. For Leah, though it was real, she had opened her heart, slowly, carefully, and then all at once. And in doing so, she never once saw the trap being built beneath her feet. The first week of marriage passed in a strange haze for Leah. At first, she chalked Noah's distracted energy up to stress, or maybe post-wedding exhaustion. He smiled in public, touched her lower back in that charming way he always did. But when they were alone, the warmth seemed to fade. He barely looked at her paintings anymore, dismissing her latest charcoal piece with a quick, nice, babe, before scrolling through his phone. He forgot the signs for simple things. Thank you, home. Even her name things he'd practiced so carefully when courting her. When she touched his hand to ask if something was wrong, he just kissed her forehead and said, "Everything's fine," and walked away. Leah wanted to believe him. She wanted the dream to still be intact. But something in her chest began to feel hollow one afternoon. While folding laundry in their small apartment, Leah noticed Noah's laptop open on the kitchen counter. A message blinked at the top corner of the screen, a preview she hadn't meant to see. "Jay, bet paid. Congrats, champ." Her heart stuttered. She looked around, hesitating, then moved to the screen. With trembling fingers, she clicked the message. The thread opened months' worth of texts between Noah and his friends. The bet, the countdown, the jokes at her expense. Asterisk, asterisk, deaf girls fall faster. Asterisk, 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 you're gonna win this easy, man. Asterisk, 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 can't believe she said yes. You're a savage. Asterisk, asterisk, it was all there. She stared at the words like they were written in another language, one her heart couldn't translate. Her fingers hovered above the keys, but she didn't respond, didn't delete, didn't cry out. Instead, she sank slowly to the floor, her knees pulled to her chest, the silence of the room pressing in on her like a weight. Her ears may not have worked, but the scream inside her head was deafening. She didn't wait for him to come home. She didn't write a note. She packed a small bag, took her sketchbook, and left the wedding ring on the nightstand beside his untouched cologne. She moved like a ghost, quiet, purposeful, broken. When Noah returned later that evening, humming to himself, he walked into the apartment expecting dinner, or a kiss, or something familiar. Instead, he found the lights off, the bedroom empty. the closet door ajar. He stepped toward the nightstand and saw the ring glinting under the lamps, mall silver and final. His heart sank. The apartment felt colder somehow. He opened his laptop to check something, and then he saw the message thread still open. A pit opened in his stomach. She knew. The life, the game, the bet it, had all unraveled. And for the first time in years, Noah Carter felt something he hadn't allowed himself to feel in a long time. Guilt, not for being caught, but for the girl who had loved him honestly, who had trusted him enough to say I do with nothing but her hands and her heart. Leah returned to Erica's apartment like a shadow of herself. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She simply walked through the door, placed her bag down gently, and curled up on the couch without a word. Erica, stunned by her sister's sudden reappearance and the absence of Noah, asked no questions at first, but as days passed, Leah's silence became louder than any scream. She didn't paint. Her sketchbooks remained untouched in her duffel. She deleted her social media accounts without explanation and ignored every message, every call, even music ones. The comfort she absorbed through vibrations and memory was gone. She floated through the small apartment like a ghost, barely eating, barely resting, and offering only the occasional tired smile when Erica made tea or left a comforting hand on her shoulder. Finally, after a week of quiet, Erica cornered her gently. "You don't have to tell me everything," she said, sitting beside her, "but I need to know something. You came home broken, Leah. I can't just watch you disappear." Eyes welled, her throat tightening as she handed Erica her phone. She had kept the screenshots, Noah's messages, Jay's jokes. The cold tallying of her heart turned into a contest. Erica scrolled through them, her jaw tightening, fingers shaking, when she reached the final message asterisk, bet paid. "Congrats, champ." Asterisk. She stood up abruptly. "I'm going over there. I swear to God, I'll..." But Leah reached out, grabbing her wrist with a firm grip that belied her exhaustion. Her hands moved slowly, deliberately. No more noise. "I want silence now." Erica paused, breathing hard. Then she nodded. She didn't agree, but she understood. Across town, Noah was unraveling. At first he told himself Leah was just upset that she'd come back. He waited 2 days, then 4, then a week. He replayed their last moments, every gesture, every look, and the weight of what he'd done began to settle in. At night, he drank to forget. By day, he stared blankly at his phone, scrolling through their old texts, reading the words she had typed, the signs she'd taught him. His apartment, once sleek and spotless, was now a mess of takeout containers, whiskey bottles, and guilt. One afternoon, unable to bear the silence anymore, he went to her gallery. She wasn't there, but her newest painting, a half-finished abstract piece, full of black and ash, hung on the wall like a scream. He waited outside. When Leah finally arrived with Erica, Noah stood up and moved toward the glass. He didn't speak. He simply raised his hands and signed clumsily, "I'm sorry." But Leah didn't stop. She didn't wave. She turned her back and walked away without hesitation, leaving him standing there, empty. Later, that night, he met up with Jay and Brian at the bar. Jay, grinning, clapped him on the back and joked, "You look like hell. Relax, man. It was just a game. You won." That was the moment something broke. Noah's fist connected with Jay's jaw before he even realized he'd moved. The bar went silent. Jay stumbled back, cursing. Brian pulled Noah away, but the damage had been done. Noah left without another word, blood on his knuckles and a hollow ache in his chest. The next morning, he made a decision he never imagined himself making. He walked into a therapist's office and asked for help. At first, the sessions were mechanical, full of deflection and half-truths, but eventually the walls began to crack. He spoke of his mother's death when he was 12, how no one in the house ever mentioned her again, how his father threw himself into work and raised Noah with expectations, not love, how charm became his armor, manipulation his currency. The therapist didn't coddle him. She called him out, slowly guiding him back through every relationship he'd used to validate his own worthlessness, week after week. Noah returned not to win Leah back, not to prove anything, but because he had started to hate the man he'd become. The man who made a bet on a woman's heart. The man who destroyed something real just to feel powerful. Healing didn't come quickly. There were relapses into anger, tears he didn't understand, and nights he still felt the urge to run. But, for once, Noah Carter wasn't running from the truth. He was staring it in the face. Not because he wanted redemption, but because he wanted to be someone who didn't need it. The gallery was hushed, filled with the soft rustle of movement and the quiet wonder of guests walking through Leah's first solo exhibit. Each painting was paired with a handwritten letter, printed in careful script beneath the frame. There were no tour guides, no background music, just silence and memory. The entire show was built around emotion without noise, grief without spectacle. Leah stood near the entrance, dressed in flowing blue, her curls pinned back loosely. Her eyes tracked each visitor with quiet pride, though her hands trembled slightly every time someone paused too long in front of a certain piece. That piece, the one that held the room's breath, hung near the center. It depicted her standing alone on a pale, windswept beach, her back to the viewer, hair fluttering in the breeze. In the background, there were two versions of Noah, one painted in vibrant, mocking strokes, laughing cruelly behind her back. The other, shadowed and distant, knelt in the surf, his face buried in his hands. The caption beneath it was short, asterisk the lie, the loss, the lesson. Asterisk Noah had arrived quietly, slipping in toward the end of the evening. He stayed near the back, unnoticed, dressed in plain clothes, a small envelope clutched tightly in his hand. He hadn't come with a plan. He only knew he needed to see her one last time, even if only from a distance. As he wandered through the exhibit, reading her letters, memories of childhood, of silence, of heartbreak, he felt the weight of his past pressing into his chest like a stone. But it wasn't until he stood in front of the beach painting that the grief overtook him. He stared at it, unmoving, while the room blurred around him. He had seen himself reflected before, but never like this, never so honestly. It was everything he had been and everything he had lost, laid bare in color and silence. His eyes burned, and for the first time in months, he let them. Before leaving, he approached the guest table, where a small stack of blank cards sat for those who wanted to leave words of reflection. He didn't hesitate. He left a sealed envelope, addressed only with her name, no signature, no plea for attention, just truth. Inside, the letter read, asterisk, I married you for a bet, and that will always be the ugliest truth I've ever lived. But I fell in love with you somewhere between your silence and your strength. I came broken. You were never meant to fix me, but you made me want to fix myself. I won't ask for forgiveness, just thank you for teaching me how to feel again. Asterisk later. That night, when the crowd had thinned and the gallery lights dimmed, Leah found the letter. Her fingers hesitated as she opened it, unsure what waited inside. As she read, her breath hitched and tears welled, but not the kind that came from betrayal or sadness. They were tears of release, of something long buried finally being named and let go. She pressed the letter to her chest, eyes closed, her shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. Not for him, not anymore. For herself, for the girl who had once believed in something false, and for the woman who had survived it with grace. Leah's new apartment was small, tucked above a florist's shop on a quiet street, with a single wide window that let in the morning sun and overlooked a row of jacaranda trees. It was hers entirely, no shared walls, no echoes of a past she was trying to outrun. The space smelled of paint and jasmine tea, her canvases leaning against every corner like silent friends. Bit by bit, she rebuilt herself, not by forgetting, but by choosing who she wanted to be next. She returned to her easel, not with the desperation of heartbreak, but with the freedom of rediscovery. And when a nearby community center asked if she'd be willing to teach art classes for deaf children, she said yes before they finished asking. Each child reminded her of herself, brave, curious, full of questions. Their hands flew through the air in bursts of color and expression, and Leah felt, for the first time in a long while, deeply at peace. She never reached out to Noah. There was no grand reunion, no final conversation. But one morning, she packaged a small canvas and shipped it to a downtown address anonymously. The painting was of a young deaf girl, barefoot and laughing, spinning in the rain. Her hands lifted to the sky, droplets captured mid-air like music frozen in time. There was no note, no signature, just the painting. A quiet message, asterisk, I'm free now. Asterisk, when Noah opened the package, he stood still for a long time. He recognized the brushwork, the motion, the message, and for the first time in months, he smiled not with regret, but with gratitude. He didn't reach out. He didn't chase the moment. He let it be what it was, a gift, not a gateway. He finished his therapy program with clarity, the sessions having peeled back years of bitterness and self-protection. He apologized to Brian, cut ties with Jay, and faced his father with something close to courage. The confrontation wasn't dramatic. It was raw, filled with quiet truths and unspoken years. His father, unexpectedly moved, extended an olive branch in the form of the inheritance he once withheld, not as a reward, but as recognition that Noah had finally stopped hiding behind himself. With it, Noah opened a non-profit dedicated to supporting hearing-impaired artists. He funded workshops, built safe spaces, and gave grants to young creatives who, like Leah once had, needed only to be seen. He didn't do it for redemption. He did it because it felt right, because she had shown him a different way to live with honesty, with intention, with silence that didn't hurt. And so their lives continued apart, but forever changed, not tethered by pain, but by the quiet grace of growth. Rain tapped gently against the tall windows of the studio as soft light pooled across the paint-splattered floor. Inside, Leah knelt beside a small boy who sat with a brush in hand, frowning at the colors he couldn't quite make work. His fingers moved hesitantly, signing something clumsy, unsure. Leah smiled, her hands responding slowly, kindly, helping him shape the words until his message was clear. Asterisk, I feel sad today. She nodded, guiding his brush toward the blues and grays. Then paint your sadness, she signed, her expression warm. Around them, other children painted quietly, their silence full of color and comfort. Outside, across the street, beneath a wide umbrella, Noah stood still in the rain. His hair was damp at the edges, his posture relaxed but watchful. He didn't step forward. He didn't knock. He simply watched through the glass as Leah moved. Among her students, confident, radiant in the life she had rebuilt, she was no longer the woman he once broke. She was something far stronger. She looked up briefly, her eyes landing on him through the window. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then she gave a soft nod, acknowledgement, not invitation. Peace, not pain. Noah raised his hand and signed from across the street. Asterisk, I'm proud of you. Asterisk. Leah's lips curved into a quiet smile. She held his gaze for just a breath longer, then turned back to the little boy beside her, crouching once more to help him finish the stormy streaks across his canvas. The rain kept falling. Inside, the children painted. Outside, Noah turned and walked away. Fade out.